I'm a locksmith. Someone called me to open a door that wasn't on any floor plan. I'm a locksmith. 16 years of drilling locks, rekeying office buildings, cracking safes that shouldn't be cracked. Most nights, the job's about as exciting as watching paint dry. People lose their keys. Couples fight and lock each other out. Landlords change tenants and need new deadbolts. You show up, get the door open, take your cash, and go home. It's routine. Until it isn't. The job last Tuesday started like all the others. Dispatch gave me an address and told me to call when I got to the building. No big deal. Just a locked storage door on a sub-basement level, the ticket said. But the address was strange, downtown, sandwiched between two high-rises I knew like the back of my hand. I'd done work in both buildings before. But this one, this Grayland Tower, didn't exist on any map, and I'd never noticed it there before. When I pulled up, it was just there. Like it had been dropped between buildings that were already standing. A narrow concrete structure, maybe 8 stories high, with faded windows and a dark green awning out front. No sign. No buzzer. Just one broken light swaying above the entrance, flickering like it was gasping. The contractor who called me was already waiting inside. Ramirez. Gaunt guy, haunted eyes, hard hat tucked under one arm like he'd given up pretending everything was okay. He barely spoke, just waved me toward a stairwell and muttered, "Basement level 3. Door at the end of the hall." I asked if he had a key, or even a visual of the lock, but he shook his head. "There's no knob," he said, voice hoarse. "No hinges. No label. It's just there." I should have left then. But I didn't. The stairwell was narrow and silent, dust clinging to the concrete like dried skin. I passed basement levels 1 and 2, old boiler rooms, cracked tiles, the usual urban decay. But when I stepped onto level 3, the air changed. It felt pressurized, like I was standing inside someone's lungs. The hallway stretched out in front of me, dimly lit by an old fluorescent bulb that buzzed like it was nervous. At the far end was a matte black rectangle embedded into the concrete wall. Not a door, not really. Just a perfectly smooth slab of metal, about 7 feet tall, with a faint vertical line down the middle. No handle. No keypad. No keyhole. It didn't belong in any building. It looked like it had grown there. Or worse, like it had always been part of the structure, waiting for someone to notice. I don't know what compelled me to try. The metal was warm to the touch. Not just warm, it pulsed faintly, like there was a heartbeat somewhere deep behind it. I took out my scope, hoping to find a seam, but there was no mechanical locking mechanism. No tumblers. No wires. Just depth. A dark tunnel inside that shouldn't have existed. But when I pressed the edge of my torsion wrench into the seam, the door opened. Not with a click or a hiss. It just peeled open, like something breathing in reverse. Behind it wasn't a storage room. It was a living space. Not just any space, it was my apartment. My furniture. My coat on the rack. My favorite mug sitting cold on the table. But the lighting was all wrong. Too bright and too still. Like someone had recreated it from memory. And the windows were black, not like night, but like someone had painted over the glass from the outside. I tried to turn back, but the door had vanished. The wall behind me was smooth, featureless, like the opening had never been there. That's when I saw the woman. Sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded, face pale and mouth slightly open like she'd been interrupted mid-sentence. Her eyes locked on mine, but they didn't blink. I couldn't move. Then she spoke, not with her mouth, but directly into my head. "He left the door open," she said. "So now it won't forget you." The lights flickered, and the walls began to shift. Subtle at first, just the sense that things were getting longer, narrower. My hallway stretched out. The doorways multiplied. I turned to flee, but everywhere I looked, more doors had appeared. Some were wood. Some metal. Some were breathing. Each door had a faint outline glowing at the seams, and behind them, I could hear things, not voices. Not words. But memories. My memories. Laughter. Screams. The rattle of tools. The sound of keys jingling in my coat pocket. I opened one. Inside was a room full of tools, locksmith tools. Some of them were mine. Others were melted. Burned. Twisted into shapes no tool should take. And hanging from the ceiling were bodies. Or what was left of them. Men and women with tools fused into their hands. Mouths sewn shut. Name tags nailed into their chests. One of them had my name. I don't remember screaming, but I must have. I turned and bolted, slamming the door behind me, but it didn't help. The hallway had changed again. Now it was mirrored. Floor to ceiling. Every reflection was just a second behind, like they needed time to catch up. And in some of the mirrors, I wasn't alone. I saw other versions of myself. One older. One bleeding. One sitting quietly, hands clasped, smiling gently with teeth that weren't mine. The whispers came again, but louder this time. Locksmiths open doors, they said. But some doors open you. I'm still in here. I think I always was. Every time I blink, the layout shifts. Every time I breathe, the walls get closer. I open a door, and it leads to someone else's nightmare. I close it, and the space forgets where it was. There's no escape. No map. Just me, my tools, and doors that should have stayed shut. They call to me now. Not with voices, but with familiar sounds, the clink of my wrench, the creak of hinges, the click of a latch that feels like it's coming from inside my own head. If someone sends you to open a door that isn't on any floor plan, don't. Because the door might not be locked to keep people out. It might be locked to keep you in. I think I lost time after that thought. Time doesn't move the same here. You blink and the shadows shift. You walk 10 paces and end up in a room you've never seen before. I found myself in a long, dark corridor with no visible light source, but the walls glowed faintly with that same cold green tint, like emergency exit light strained of all urgency. The air felt wet now. Not like mist or humidity. Wet like something had been crying inside the concrete for a very, very long time. The doors had changed again. They no longer looked like they belonged to any building, each one was too specific, too personal. One door was covered in photographs I hadn't seen in years. Another had my childhood handwriting carved into it. A third door had my mother's voice playing softly behind it, but I knew damn well she died 5 years ago and never stepped foot in this building. That one I didn't open. I couldn't. I walked past it and tried not to cry. But the doors were following me. That's the part I didn't understand at first. I'd walk down a hall, look over my shoulder, and the doors were closer. Not like they'd moved, but like the hallway had shortened itself while I wasn't looking. They wanted me to choose. To open. To feed them something. And I started to wonder, was I even the one who unlocked that first door? What if I was always meant to be here? Eventually, I stopped in front of a steel-plated door with my own silhouette outlined in soot on it. It had a handle. A real one. No trick. No whispering hinges or blood-warm metal. Just an old, brass knob like the kind you'd find in a school basement. I stared at it for what felt like hours. I wasn't sure if it was the way out, or the real trap. But I needed to see. I needed something to change. So I opened it. Inside was a room lit only by a dangling utility bulb. The walls were covered floor to ceiling in keys. Hundreds of thousands of them. Long keys. Short ones. Old iron skeleton keys. Tiny locker keys. Even plastic fobs, melted and fused to the concrete. All labeled. Every single one with a handwritten tag, dangling from a wire hook. And as I looked closer, I saw the names. Each one was a person. Not famous people. Just names. Ordinary names. And one of the keys, near the center of the far wall, had my name on it. It looked newer than the others. Shinier. Untouched. The bulb flickered, and then I wasn't alone anymore. Behind me stood the pale woman again. But now she was closer. Solid. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. She reached forward, long fingers brushing mine, and she pointed to the key. Then she turned her hand over, and I saw it. My old apartment key, embedded in her palm like it had been absorbed. That's when it hit me. The room didn't keep keys. It kept people. You lose your key, you call a locksmith. But when a door loses you, it comes to collect. I backed away, heart pounding so loud I swore the keys were rattling in rhythm. But there was only one exit. The door I came through was gone again, replaced by an empty picture frame, one that reflected not my face, but someone else's. Another version of me. One who looked tired. Hollow. Worn down to the bones by guilt. I turned and ran. Didn't think. Didn't breathe. I sprinted through hallway after hallway, until the walls became tight, too tight to move through. I had to crawl. The space shrunk around me, pressing in with moist, fabric-like walls that pulsed gently with my heartbeat. I wasn't in a building anymore. I was in a lung. I was in a body. I was in whatever this thing was, not a room. Not a structure. Something living. Something ancient. Something hungry for doors and the people who dare to open them. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe it let me go. Maybe it wanted me to bring you this warning. I woke up in my van, parked in front of the building, but the building was gone. Just two blank, windowless walls with a 12-foot gap in between. No doorway. No alley. Nothing. My tools were in my lap. The van was locked. But my scope, my most expensive scope, was missing. And in its place was a brass tag with my name engraved on it. I tried to tell Ramirez, the dispatcher, anyone. But no one remembered the job. No one remembered the building. The ticket wasn't in the system. And every map I've checked since then shows no space where grill and tower stood. Just an impossible sliver of city that refuses to be measured. A place where no floor plan ever includes a basement. A place I think is still waiting. I still carry my bag. I still answer calls. But sometimes when I'm walking to a job, I hear it. The faint click of a tumbling lock that doesn't belong to any door I know. Sometimes, I find myself looking down hallways that weren't there the day before. And every so often, I find a key in my pocket. One I don't remember cutting. Sometimes I think about throwing that key away. I've tried. The first time, I dropped it in a storm drain, thinking it would be washed away or buried in rust forever. The next morning, it was back, on my nightstand, polished and clean, sitting upright on its tag as though it had never left. I tried melting it, crushing it in a vise, even driving 2 hours out of town to bury it in a field I used to camp in as a kid. No matter what I do, I wake up with it closer to my skin, in my pocket, under my pillow, once even clenched in my hand. There's no engraving on it. Just a flat, brass head and a blackened shaft, like it's been burned at the edges. But when I hold it too long, I start to hear things, soft creaks, the sound of turning locks, voices speaking through door chains. A woman humming a lullaby I've never heard but somehow know all the words to. One time I swear I heard my own voice, muffled behind thick wood, saying, "Please. Not again." I stopped sleeping with the lights off. I stopped answering unknown numbers. But they still call. Not every night, but often enough. A voice like static, layered with whispers beneath it, always says the same thing: you left something unlocked. I used to think it was just in my head, some deep paranoia cooked up by stress and trauma. But last month, I got a call from a private number at 3:13 a.m. The voice on the line said, "Room 314. Do not open unless it knocks first." Then it cut out. 3 days later, I got a call to rekey the lock at an old apartment complex across town. The front desk woman gave me a number. 314. It was an empty unit. Or so I thought. The door was already ajar, just slightly, no signs of forced entry, no scuffs on the frame. The air inside was stale, like no one had lived there in decades. But the layout was wrong. The kitchen was facing the wrong direction. The walls were just a little too long. The window was bricked over from the inside. And worst of all, in the center of the living room was a chair. Just a simple wooden chair. Facing the wall. With a note taped to the back. It said, "Welcome back. We kept it warm." There was no signature. No indication of who left it. But something about the handwriting, spindly, narrow, with letters too tightly packed, made my skin crawl. I turned to leave, but the hallway was different. Longer. Darker. At the end of it was a door I hadn't passed on my way in. It was familiar, but I couldn't place why, until I saw the keyhole. It matched the key I've never cut. I didn't unlock it. I couldn't. I ran. I bolted down the stairwell, out through the back, didn't even stop to close the door behind me. I drove for hours with the headlights off, like if I made myself harder to find, the thing, whatever it was, would give up. But the farther I drove, the more I noticed the key was growing colder. As if punishing me. That night, I woke up to a door in my apartment hallway that had never been there before. Right where the coat closet used to be. No number. No knob. Just a keyhole. I haven't touched it. I haven't dared. But sometimes I see light leaking from the edges, flickering like candlelight, and I smell iron. Not rust. Blood. I've stopped accepting jobs that involve basements. I avoid buildings with more than 3 floors. And I don't take calls after midnight. But I know that won't matter for long. The key wants to be used. It needs to open something. I can feel it now, in my bones, in the meat of my hands, like my muscles remember locks that haven't been made yet. Like I was born to open. And I'm starting to think that's all I've ever been, a tool for something far older than keys, far deeper than door frames. Something that lives between moments. Between seconds. Between rooms. They say every lock is made with a key in mind. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think some locks come first. And eventually, they build the key out of you.